stitchy friends, how is everybody doing? Today is Tuesday, September 30th, the very last day of September. I can't believe it. This is Flosstube number 64. My name is Andrew, this is my dog Winston, and you have stumbled upon the Runner Stitcher. This is my channel where I talk primarily about my cross-stitch journey, but also a little bit of the mix of running as well. So if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back and spending a little bit of time with me. I really appreciate it. I absolutely love this hobby. I love sharing it with you all. I love getting to talk about my projects, and I love the discussion that we have in the comments section. I love hearing what you're working on, and just this community has been really, really lovely and really beneficial for me during a time that's been a little stressful with my move. So thank you all for coming back if you are a returning subscriber. And if you're new here, welcome. I really appreciate you stopping by to check out my channel. I hope you enjoy what you see. If not, there's plenty of Flosstubes out there. Every day there's new ones popping up, and it's amazing to see what everybody is working on. So you'll definitely find one that you enjoy. But if you do like this one, I hope you'll stick around and join the fun. All right, it's been another really good stitchy week for me this week. I think in total I put in about 4,055 stitches, which is great. That is like a really good stitching week for me, and I haven't had one of those in a number of weeks, so it felt kind of good to get back to that number. I've got a bunch of different projects to share with you today, which I'm super excited about, and I have one new start that you'll see here in a little bit, so it should be fun today. I did want to start off by just saying a quick thank you to Peg and Beth, who both took advantage of the Buy Me a Coffee link listed below. Thank you both so much. I really appreciate that. It's very kind of you, and Beth mentioned how moving can be expensive, and yes, it definitely can. It's funny how being in a new space, I'm constantly finding things that I need for the new space that I didn't have in the previous space. So yeah, thank you both so much. I really appreciate the kind gesture. That is very, very thoughtful of you. As I said, so this week I was able to add in just over 4,000 stitches, and I've got, I think, about 5 or 6 whips for you, so let's just jump right in. All right, we're going to start with marathon stitching, which is for #whipintoshape, and this is the challenge that I created for you all to stitch along with my running journey. So as you know, I was training for the Sydney Marathon in Australia, which didn't pan out, didn't quite work out, but I've switched gears now, and I will be running the New York City Marathon on November 2nd. I think it's the first Sunday in November. So that's what my training is gearing up towards now. We've got about a month left, so I think there's 4 weeks left, 4 or 5 weeks, and that's exciting. So far in the New York training, I have run 134 miles, which equates to 1,340 stitches if you're stitching along, and the total time has been 19 hours and 55 minutes. So just about 20 hours of additional training from the Sydney Marathon training. So that is exciting as well. My piece that I chose for #whipintoshape is Fruits of Plenty, and I will pop a picture in here of where it is when I began the challenge, which was, you know, back in the beginning of May. This week I was able to add in 297 stitches, which puts me at 60.89% on this piece. And here is where I'm at now. It's looking so good. I really, really love this piece. So let's zoom in a little bit here and see where I'm at now. So I worked a little bit more in this section here with these greens, kind of bringing them down a little bit. I also worked these, I think I finished some of these triangles and these leaves. I filled in some of the lighter green here in these sort of berries that are on the vines. And that's pretty much where I worked this time. But most of it was in this lighter green section that I brought down a little bit there. So 297 stitches were added to that piece. This is stitched on a 32 count. This is vintage smoky white, I think it's called, from Zweigart. I'm stitching it with 2 DMC colors and 2 strands over 2 linen threads. This has just been so fun. I'm so proud of where I've gotten to on this piece through the Whip Into Shape challenge. Without that, I probably would not have consistently been working on it throughout the year. I would have still brought it out for Whip Go and things like that, but definitely would not have gotten this consistent progress. So I'm really, really happy about that. Okay, I've adjusted the camera a little bit. I think that's a little bit better. Hopefully when I zoom in on the pieces now, you'll be able to see them a little bit better. But Whip Into Shape has been so much fun. I am still loving seeing all the progress that you're posting either on your Flosstube videos or on Instagram. it has just been so encouraging to see people get finishes on projects that they thought they might not have worked on this year, or, you know, just get a really good chunk of stitching done. And honestly, the support means so much to me. This past weekend I had an 18-mile run, and I thought it was going to be hotter and humid than it was, but it still was a warm day. And let me tell you, one of the things that kind of got me through that run was thinking about everybody stitching along and also excited to get to stitch on my piece for that many stitches as well. But the support that I get from you guys, it just means so much to me to have you all sort of joining me on this journey. And I know the first marathon didn't work out, but here's hoping that this one will. Okay, let's jump into temperature stitching now. So temperature stitching, I have 3 whips and I assign them numbers from 0 to 9, and whatever the temperature is for that day, the second digit, I work on that piece for 100 stitches. I sort of plot it out for the week so I know what I'll be working on and then stitch on those pieces. So the first one I'm going to share with you is Stack of Pancakes. This is from SammyStitchesStore on Etsy. And I might try to pop a picture in here of what the final piece will look like. I will also put a video in here of where I was when I started this week. All right, here's my starting point for these beautiful, delicious pancakes. I will be working down this diagonal right here. It's only called for 2 days, so 200 stitches. It's probably not going to get me all the way down this diagonal, but I will make some progress in through here. You'll see it now. And this was called for 2 days of temperature stitching, so 200 stitches, but I actually put in 251 stitches, putting me at 74.73%, very close to 75% on this piece. And the reason I put in a little bit of extra is because I was able to finish the next diagonal. So I was working on this diagonal here, and 200 stitches got it just about to the bottom, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to bring it down and finish this whole diagonal. So that is what I did. And here is what it looks like now. I absolutely love how this is coming together. I really enjoy it on the black fabric as well. Although there is another stitcher who has been working on the same piece for #whip-into-shape and just finished it, or no, didn't finish it, but is like very, very close, 99% or something. And they are doing it on a lighter fabric, and the beiges really pop on that lighter fabric. It looks so good. They posted it on Instagram and I was just like, wow, that's amazing. So that's really cool to see how much the fabric color really makes a difference in the piece and what it brings out in the piece too. But I am very happy with mine. So again, I did bring down this diagonal here all the way to the bottom. That was the last thing I did. The next diagonal starts up here in this corner and kind of fills in some of these holes that I've got here, and then we'll come all the way down. I think I've got about 7 or 8 diagonals left on this piece. So not too many, but they will get smaller. I think I've only got like maybe two diagonals left that are kind of the full length, and then they start getting smaller as I go through. So that should get easier as I go. But yeah, this is really fun. This is stitched on a 20 count black Aida, and I'm using 2 strands of all the called for DMC. And so it makes for a very thick piece, but I can't wait to have this hanging on my wall. It always makes me hungry and looks delicious. So that is fun. Hopefully this will keep coming back out. All right, and the other temperature piece that was called this week was the New Start category. And I had completed the goal on the previous New Start, so now I am ready to begin Pop of Halloween. This is from Bent Creek, and that is what that's going to look like. It's super fun. This is all stitched with pearl cotton, which I've never used before. This was a full kit that came with the linen and all of the materials. So I'm using all the kit materials for this piece. And yeah, I don't have a starting point because it was a brand new start, but this was actually called for 5 days. So it needed 500 stitches, and I was able to put in 508 stitches, putting me at 20% on this piece already. So before we reach the goal on temperature stitching, this piece will be completed, which is very, very exciting. And let me just tell you before I show it to you, I had so much fun with this piece. I don't know if it was the larger stitching, because this is stitched on, I think this is a 20 count linen, and you stitch over 2. So it's really big X's. I don't know if it was the fact that it was big X's, that I could see the fabric really easily, or working with the pearl cottons, but I had so much fun. The colors on this were so fun to work on during, like, as we switched into autumn. And anyway, enough talking. I'll show you where I got to. This is 508 stitches. So here we go. I got 6 of these little pumpkin pops complete. We'll zoom in here a little bit so you can see a little bit better. This one here, the plaid pumpkin, has to be one of my favorites. I absolutely love the colors in that one. I had so much fun stitching it, even though it was a little bit more challenging. It just was so cute the way it turned out. And look at these little faces. I just love them. I was a little nervous because the eyes here are French knots, and they're French knots with the pearl cotton. So it's a thicker thread already, and I'm like, these could turn out really bad if the French knot becomes too bulky and too big. But I think they actually turned out pretty well. They're a little wonky, but I think that kind of goes with the pumpkin face anyway. So yeah, I just had a lot of fun. I did fill in some of these stems on the pumpkins that you can see here. So some of that is filled in. And then there's also this lighter kind of stitching. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but there's this lighter stitching that kind of goes around the outside, just a few stitches here and there. I haven't done any of that yet. I thought that would be best to leave till the end so I have other places to kind of weave in those threads. So there will be some kind of confetti stitching where it's like just a stitch here or there that I'll have to do towards the end. But so far, this has been just so much fun to work with. I am using a 24 size needle because that works best with the pearl cotton from what I've been told and from my experience. So yeah, size 24 needle and just using the called for pearl cottons, but really, really enjoying this. Super fun. And it went so fast. I think I finished most of these stitches in one day. So I really was just having a good time with it. So there we go. That is Pop of Halloween. And as I said, before this reaches the goal on temperature stitching, this will be completed. So that is exciting because hopefully we'll have it finished this fall, and then also I'll get to start something new again. So we'll see. All right, and the other temperature stitch was Celtic Autumn, which didn't actually get called this week. So there were no stitches put in her for this week, but stay tuned for the schedule for next week. We'll see if she gets called. Okay, next up is Saga. This is from Long Dog Samplers, and here's what this is going to look like. Super fun, this great piece with arches and all these different fun scenes in the center. And yeah, let me tell you, we are getting close to the next story, so stay tuned. I will pop a video in here of where I was when I started this week. Okay, here's my starting point for Saga for the week. I think I'm gonna actually start down here and kind of bring across the bottom first, and then maybe I'll jump into what's in the center of this arch, but you will see where I get to now. And since I saw you last, I was actually able to add in 1,173 stitches. And the reason for that is I kind of used this week at the end of September when I had met all my goals already to catch up on goals I had missed in August. And one of the things I had missed was one of the weeks I missed stitching on Saga because it was just too busy with the move. So I thought, you know what, I'm actually going to add in the stitches I would have done that week as well, so I'm fully caught up. So I technically did 2 weeks worth of Saga stitching, which is why it's at 1,173 stitches. That puts me at 47.04% on this piece. And here is where we are now. This is Saga. Oh, it's looking so good. So you can see already that I have a good chunk of the center done in this next arch. What I did for the first week is I brought this bottom section of the arch all the way over and completed this bottom of the column there. And then once that was done, I jumped right into the center part. So I stitched this bird here and I started stitching on this tent. I think this is like a squirrel that's hanging out on the side of the tent. I'm still not sure if this is an ant that's hanging on the chandelier there, but super, super fun. I'll try to zoom in here so you can get a better glimpse of the stitching there. But that is kind of the clue of what is coming in this arch. So because I already got a big chunk of the arch done, and next week I'll have even more done, that means that next week I will be sharing the story of what is in that arch. So if you're interested in hearing the stories that kind of go along with, definitely check out next week's episode and I'll give you the story that goes along with that arch for Saga, which is super exciting. So I don't think I'll finish the arch next week. There's still a lot of stitching that goes in there, but I will probably make good progress, and in the next 2 or 3 weeks that will be completed, and then we just have this sort of like half 3/4 arch on the side here to complete that full row. So this is stitched on a 36 count vintage country mocha linen. I'm using the Silks For You PR207 and stitching one strand over 2 linen threads. And I just absolutely love this piece. I thought I might get tired of it working 2 weeks in one, but I didn't. I just wanted to keep pulling it out, and it was still fun. So okay, next up, my whip I've got is my new start from last week, and this is 1838 Elizabeth Masterton, a Scottish sampler. This is from the Scarlet letter, and here is what this is going to look like. This picture is so small in the corner, I feel like it really doesn't do it justice, but that is the sampler I'll be working on. And you saw my start last week. Basically, I just sort of continued with what I was working on last week, but I'll pop a video in here of where I was when I started. Okay, here's my starting point for Elizabeth Masterton for the week. I am probably going to work at filling in a little bit more of the yellow in this side and over here. And I don't know how far I'll get because I'm only going to be working on it this one day, but hopefully we'll see a little bit of progress. And I was able to add 405 stitches, which puts me at 13.95% of just page 1. So I think there's actually like 20 or 22 pages in this. I said last week there were 9 maybe. But I realized that it's basically 3.5 pages across the top, and then I think it's 4 or 5 rows down. So there might be about 20 or 22 pages of this piece, but I'm gonna do it page by page. So I'm at 14% of page 1 by adding 405 stitches. That was just one day's worth of stitching, but here is where I got to. So basically what I did was I brought this border over here. This is the end of page 1. So that is kind of the width of one page. There'll be obviously 3 more that go across the side there, but I was able to get to the end here. And then I decided, you know what, I'm gonna take the border all the way down, and I was able to get to the bottom of the page right here on this side as well. So we'll zoom in a little bit here so you can see the stitching. I'm using the Swadelge, the called for Swadelge on this piece, which is absolutely lovely to work on. The silk is so beautiful. I really, really love the color. I've only got 3 colors in so far. The green, the yellow, and then I just added this one little heart here to get into my 3rd color, which is really beautiful. This also has a single stitch border that you can see, or it goes all the way around the outside and then all the way on the inside here as well. There's a single stitch border. And I will continue to work on that. The inside border does overlap with some of the stitches the further it goes down, so that's why I kind of stopped it like right here. But the outside border, it doesn't really overlap with anything, so I brought it all the way down to here, and as I continue on, I'll bring the border over there. And then the first row of initials that she has here, they're all done in sort of 4-sided stitch, which I've never done before. And that was really interesting. As I was saying, the 4-sided stitch here for the initials, I picked my path for the first sort of square, but then realized that same path wouldn't work for the other ones since they all kind of connected. So that was a really interesting process to figure out how to get those in there, but I think it looks really good in the end, and I'm very happy with it. And then, you know, we've got the heart beside it as well. Also, technically this color of the JM here was supposed to be a different blue color, but I will say with this pattern, the back stitching in the chart is very hard to read. They have different colored lines assigned to the back stitching or to these 4-sided stitches, but they don't actually say what floss goes with what color. So it's a little bit confusing. And I thought I had missed something in the chart, but I looked again and again. I don't think they actually call out the back stitching what colors you're supposed to use. So anyway, in this stitch, I thought it was still this green of the inner border, but it's actually supposed to be a blue color. I'm not going to take it out. I decided I'm going to do this first initial in green, and then there's a very last initial on this side, so I will do that in green. And then everywhere else in the center where the initial is supposed to be the blue color, I will stitch it in the blue. But so nobody will really know but me, but yeah, that's that. And then, so we have a row of 4-sided stitches that kind of go underneath the initials here that form the next border. And that will probably take a while because those stitches do take some more concentration and thinking to do. But yeah, I'm really happy with this progress so far. I'm happy to be at the top and bottom of the page and really enjoying this. So this is stitched on a 40 count from Fox and Rabbit. I believe it's called Paper Weight. I'll have to look it up. I'll put it on the screen. And I'm stitching it, of course, with all the Swadelige silks, one strand over 2 linen threads. And yeah, really, really happy to have some additional progress on this one. Okay, and the final piece I've got for you today is another piece that I was playing catch up on. This is Gaia, the Earth Goddess from Bella Filipina. Here is what she is going to look like. She's so stunning. I really enjoy working on her. This was my WIPGO call for August to get 500 stitches in. And again, I figured why not try to play catch up a little bit. I've been kind of wanting to work on her for a bit. So I brought her back out to get those 500 stitches. And I'll pop a picture or a video in here of where I was when I started the week. All right, here's my starting point for Gaia, the Earth Goddess. I did scroll her up a little bit so I had more room to work, but I'm gonna be working on this section right in through here. I actually started putting in a few stitches right here, so I'll be carrying this sort of up and we'll see how far I get. And I really brought her out just to get those 500 stitches. However, I was having so much fun on her that I continued stitching on her until I reached 1,421 stitches. So I got a lot of work done on Gaia. She is now at approximately 52.54%. I have her in Markup RXP, but it's kind of a rough estimate, so I don't know how accurate that really is. And that doesn't include any of the back stitching. But probably I'm about around the 50% mark right now. But I would just pull her out in the evenings. So after work, I would kind of sit down in this chair and use my stand and just stitch on her for a couple hours in the evening. And that built up over the week. And suddenly I just didn't want to put her away. I was at 1,400 stitches. So here is where I'm at now on Gaia. And I think she's coming along really good. I hope you can see the progress here. But what I worked on this time, and sorry I've got all of these dangling threads. This is basically a new method of working for me where I'm starting at the bottom and working up. And so the way I like to work is that I don't want to stitch anything here that doesn't have stitches beside it on this side. So I kind of park the thread until I'm able to bring this side up further and then work my way across. Anyway, that's probably too much information, but it works for me, it works for my brain for this piece, but it does lead to a lot of dangling threads. So hopefully we'll get those out of the way so you can actually see the progress. But so this side here, her cape, I was able to add in a lot of this section here with these beautiful flower colors as well. I brought up some of these greens and whites here. There will be beads all throughout this as well. So you're not getting the full shine there that will be coming, but it's so stunning. It's really beautiful. I love how this just sort of fades into the background, into the air. I also stitched a little bit on this side. I brought up some of these greens and purples on here a little bit and stitched a little bit of this white. And then you'll see I stopped right there with this thread because I realized there's a lot of stitches that go in over here and I need to build this up first. So I think I also actually brought a little bit of the dress and the oranges up as well. But the cool thing now is that right here where I'm at, and maybe you can see if you look really closely at that dark green, you'll see there are a few stitches there that are that are 1 over 1. And that is because right here where this green is, right here where this green ends here, that is where her hand will come into play. So I will be stitching her skin 1 over 1 again, and yeah, her hand will come into there. So if I pull this out the next time I want to work on some skin, I can do that and get her hand completed, or I can continue working on the dress. And this is stitched on a 32 count, I think it's called Spring Showers from Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers. It is this beautiful fabric that starts off as this like beautiful green, which is where the bottom of the piece is, and then it kind of fades up into this bluish gray color. And I think it's gonna look beautiful once she's done. I'm really happy with where it's sitting here, and I think it'll be good with the piece overall. So I'm using all the called for materials, all the DMC, all the Krynic, all the Karen Water Lilies, everything is called for. And yeah, I just had so much fun stitching on this. It reminded me again of like, yes, I do love stitching fancy ladies. There's just something about it. I actually was watching the Great British Baking Show as I was stitching on this, and so now those people and the memories in that cast are stitched into this piece too. But yeah, I just had a lot of fun with it, and pulling it out in the evenings was a great little relaxation thing. So that is Gaia, the Earth Goddess. Okay, and those are all the whips I've got for you this week. So let's jump into plans a little bit. Plans for me include WhipGo, which Jessie Marie Does Stuff is the originator of WhipGo, and she just released the numbers for October, which are number 17, which is my stack of pancakes. So you've already seen that one today. And number 6, which is The Marvelous Circus. That is my supersized, full coverage, Amy Stewart Heaven and Earth design piece that I have not worked on in a while. So I am super excited to get back to that. For WhipGo, typically what I do is I spin the wheel and it'll show me what number of stitches I'm supposed to work on for those projects. So I'm gonna pop a video in here because I'm now filming on my phone and can't get to the app. So I'll pop a video in here of me spinning the wheel to decide what stitches count. Okay, so I'm here in a different filming situation, but I'm trying to film the video where I can see how many stitches I will stitch on each of my WhipGo projects. So the first one that was called was Stack of Pancakes. So I'm gonna go ahead and spin my tiny decisions wheel. There's not many options left on the wheel because we're getting close to the end of the year, but let's see how many stitches we will work on for Stack of Pancakes. Okay, Stack of Pancakes will get 400 stitches. And now we're going to spin the wheel for the second project, which was The Marvelous Circus from Amy Stewart, Heaven and Earth Designs full coverage piece. And all right, that will get 1,200 stitches. I am really excited to get back to that one, so I'm glad that number's a little bit higher. So we'll do 400 on Stack of Pancakes and 1,200 on my full coverage. And then I'll put a picture here of my WhipGo board, and you'll see that I've now crossed off both goals for September and Gaia, which was the goal for August. So the only lingering goal is the stitches for Beyonce, which I just don't think will happen this year. And that's okay. Yeah, so those will be my 2 goals, to work on those pieces, and that will be throughout the month of October. For the next week for temperature stitching, I'll put a picture up here of what the chart looks like for this week. Again, we have 5 days called on the new start on Pop of Halloween. So that will really give it some good progress. I think we should be at about 40% on the piece by the time this week is over. So I'll put 500 more stitches into Pop of Halloween, and then the other 3 days were for Celtic Autumn. So that will get, the other 2 days will be for Celtic Autumn. I can't add how many days are in a week, apparently. So 5 days for Pop of Halloween, 500 stitches, 2 days for Celtic Autumn. And unfortunately, Stack of Pancakes didn't get called at all this week, but maybe that just means now that tomorrow will be October, maybe that just means I need to start on that goal for WhipGo for the week. And other than that, I don't really have any plans. I've sort of just been stitching what I want. I was catching up on goals, but now that it's a new month, I don't really need to do that. So I'm just gonna keep pulling out what I want to. I will see where that takes me. I think there's still some Halloween pieces that I wanna work on, which October is a good time to work on them. I've got Festive Frosted Pumpkin Cottage from the Witchy Stitcher, and I've got Halloween Quaker from Leela Studio. So maybe I'll pop in one of those. We'll see. I don't know. I'm gonna kind of let my mood dictate what I'm gonna stitch on, and that feels pretty good. Other than that, I'm gonna keep running. I've got a little bit of a shorter run this weekend, only 12 miles as opposed to 18. So that's kind of nice, a little bit of a break. And then next weekend, I will have the longest run of the training. That will be my 20 miler next weekend. So gearing up for that as well. I've also just kind of been enjoying settling into the new space. I do have a little patio area outside. It's a very New York situation in that there's no door to get to the patio, so I have to climb out the window to get there. But it's a nice little space, especially this time of year, to just enjoy being outside, get some sun. And I will put in a little video here of the other night when I was having dinner outside on the patio and just having a really nice moment. So you can get to see a little bit of what Winston and I do sometimes in the evenings. All right, and the only other thing I wanted to share with you today was a little bit of the haul I got from Harvest Moon, which was hosted by Steph at Lindy Stitches. And I was so shocked at how fast this came. I think I ordered it the very first day on Friday of Harvest Moon, and by the next Tuesday, it was in my mailbox. That is so fast. So The one thing I really wanted to get from Harvest Moon was the exclusive Gloriana silk pack. Look at these beautiful fall colors here. I just think they are lovely, and I can't wait to try stitching with Gloriana silks. They just look really great. This red is beautiful. It's Schoolhouse Red, which I think is pretty hard to find sometimes. I think it can be out of stock a lot of places, but we've got Schoolhouse Red, we've got Pumpkin, Almond, and Hazelnut Dark. So that is one thing I knew I wanted and jumped right on that as soon as I could. And then some other things kind of fell into my cart. One was this Autumn Harvest collection from Mill Hill, and this is called Candy Bucket. That is what that is gonna look like. I love these Mill Hill kits that kind of come with everything you need here, but I just thought Autumn Harvest was so cute and had to have it. So added that. I also finally got Grandpa's Shop Ride from Lap and Loops. That is this beautiful linen here. It's kind of a dirty, rusty, brownish color. I have no idea what I'm gonna stitch on it, but I can't wait to find something perfect for it. I also picked up Picture This Plus in 36 count. This is Velt. Just kind of a nice neutral here. It's got some modeling and like some greens to it as well. Hopefully that's coming through in the camera, but it's a very beautiful color. And then one more piece of fabric just happened to fall into my cart, and that was, this is a 36 count linen from Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers called Sunkiss. And it's this beautiful purple. It's coming across way brighter in the camera. It's not that bright in person, but it's got like a little bit of yellow modeling in it as well. And I think that will be really fun to find something to stitch on. And then I picked up a couple of patterns. The first one I got was from Stitchy Pros. This is Scarecrow Serenade. And I just thought this was absolutely lovely. He's so cute. That will be fun to stitch up at some point. I also had to grab, because everybody's been stitching it, and I had to grab Snack-a-Lantern from Boomerang Stitches. That is Amity from Hathaway Stitchers here on Flosstube. I just love this little raccoon, and yeah, had to have the pattern. And the final thing I picked up was, this is from the Calico Confectionery, and this is called, I think it's called Shine On Harvest Moon. And that is this house here. It's kind of this like beautiful fall sampler. I love the colors. I love the pumpkins in the yard. I thought it was really unique how the letters of the alphabet kind of go around the outside, and they're even upside down on the bottom. I thought that was really cool. So that is another piece that eventually I would like to start. But those are the patterns in the haul I got from Harvest Moon. And you know, I haven't been doing much shopping because moving is expensive. And so I don't really have plans to buy a lot more. I've got a lot in my stash that I realized when I moved. And yeah, I want to kind of stitch from that and work on the projects I've got. I have plenty of new things that are kitted and ready to go to start. So yeah, I'm going to try to not be purchasing as much over the next couple of months, but we'll see how that goes, you know. All right, and I think that's all I've got for you. So keep running if you're a runner, always keep stitching, and be kind to whoever you meet on your journey. Bye for now, until the next stitch. Stumbled upon the runner stitcher. My name is Andrew. That was my dog Winston, and we are here to share a little bit of our cross-stitch journey. Well, my cross-stitch journey. Winston is not cross-stitching, and